So I think that ultimate single-handedly just saved the game for WK here as she blinks in and re-engages once again, causing absolute havoc on the side of Imperial Gaming, staying alive, killing the Ganesh, getting a trade for her life before she finally falls to the on her. She just 1v5 the entirety of Imperial Gaming and came off with. What do you think is going to be here next?
Oh, a big Thana ult and a big Serb blink. Here we are, a big fight on the middle Phoenix.
As the Ganesh ult goes down, Ratatasker also going down the backside. Crits are coming in left, right, and center on her. Giannis both getting kills individually. WK making the engage, but not benefiting them whatsoever as Kukulin now falls. All that's left is Chang'e and Thanatos.
The question is, will he possibly be successful this time? A lot of damage onto Anher and Thana.
That was a big amount of damage from the Anher autos and the Giannis too on the Thanatos. Thanatos falling for that. Anher uses his beads to try to stay alive, but the Kukulin still managed to get the kill. Vampire Gaming steals the Fire Giant. I think Giannis is running behind it and stole it with a 2.
Wow.
And now it's all falling apart for WK as Heimdall has fallen to the Ratatasker now. The remnants of Red Team desperately trying to get something, scrounge some type of salvaging kill.
On the back end, Pilot went all in and unfortunately meets himself in front of 3 all alone. He gets taken out of this one. That's the team low. 2 are trying to back off, but 2 are going aggressive. BZ takes that one. Kaizo immediately trades his life. Strap trying to get away from the Tiamat. I'm sorry, not going to happen. So a double kill will happen. And Batman now trying to get himself away, but this is a 6th level difference. He uses the slow from his ultimate, and he gets, no, not a triple, a quadra. Every kill this fight has gone his way. Just short of the Penta, as Papa will not let that happen.
To a ulted Fafnir. WK going back here, pulling the Pyro, but a huge toggle. WK will secure the Pyromancer, but a lot of damage is being put onto the Awilix. Sobek and Chaka getting focused in the backline here from WK. Fafnir trying to make some use of his ult before it goes down, but a huge Raijin ult in this corridor doing a lot of damage on the side of WK. Fafnir getting 2 to the wall by Anher. Looks like Fenrir might be able to get a kill on Jingwei in the back. RDO taking a lot of DPS in the Fire Giant pit here. Can anybody on the side of WK fall? They're all with 1 HP. Jingwei finally falls to Fenrir, and the Raijin will get the final hit on Fire Giant here, and here comes the dance.
The Frenzy was popped early to try to burn that off, but Anher within execution threshold uses the Beast Aegis to stay alive by the Thanatos. Thanatos getting impaled back. His impact on this fight completely moot now as he's running for his life. Guan Yu also at 1 HP. In the meantime, Kukulin running down the Ratatasker. And it seems as though Giannis has been sent, Ganesh has been sent through the Bifrost. Anher now in the 1v1 with the Kukulin. Kukulin tanking those autos, managing to get the final blow on the Anher in the midst of this fight. Ganesh also falls. This fight seems to have been going very well for WK. The Heimdall stays alive at 1 HP from that entire fight. Giannis running for his life. Ratatasker managing to stay alive. Very re-engage off the Thanatos ultimate. It's going to be very effective as Chang'e gets impaled to the side walls. Anher jumps in looking for more aggression. Chang'e punishing him for stepping forward. However, the Giannis ult comes in, snipes to the Chang'e. Thana picking up on her on the backside. Now Vampire Gaming trying desperately to disengage in this fight.
Time into the Titan.
As they're starting to burn out the Titan. Health falling very fast. The Ankh going through. Titan still only half HP. The crits are ringing true from the Anher, however. Thanatos will fall from the Anher. The Giannis getting the Chang'e. Kukulin returning the kill on the Anher. Heimdall still alive and with barely an HP left. WK takes the set 2-1.
All right, folks. How is it going, everyone? We are here to bring you some Spartans action. We've got the 2 teams of Alien Nation and Dismay going up against each other in the first round match. My name is Glacier, joined on the desk today by none other than Snake, the legend, and we are going to get right on into these picks and bans. Snake, how's it going, man? How's your weekend?
Hi, Glacier. I'm happy to be back. This new season starting. I'm really happy to see some Smite games.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's going to be kind of interesting because we've had a very, very I don't want to use the word stagnant, but we've had a very kind of solid meta that's developed, and then just recently we've had a patch that may be pushing a couple things up, a couple things down. So it'll be really interesting to see how these teams kind of react as we get into these picks and bans. What are you looking forward to the most? What are you expecting the most?
Well, for this edition, I really hope some spicy picks. I'm not gonna lie, but in terms of the bans, I think it's standard-wise. Maybe you already mentioned the patch that has been released is gonna change some things around, and also Morgan Le Fay is available now, so that is going to be interesting too.
It is. And just another thing, this is being played without Persephone available. So as we see these bans, Tiamat and Artemis come through, both things that we're seeing a lot of teams not really interested in playing against. One thing to note is that Persephone is not available for this week, as she was able to be played halfway throughout the week during our first match week. So we thought it would be more fair for everyone to be playing with her unavailable rather than some teams get to have her, some teams not. So don't need to worry about seeing any Persephone bans through. But what we will worry about is these gods that have been absolutely running games for a long time now. We've got Tiamat, Gilgamesh, we've got Artemis, and we've still got a couple of priority picks open.
Yeah, as I already mentioned, Morgan Le Fay is like a really high priority mage, and I expect her to be banned, but I guess the ban so far are really like make sense. So I'm hopefully, well, if she's not banned, then she's probably going to be first picked.
Yeah, I do kind of agree with that. Seeing Dismay go ahead and ban out that Odin pick. Odin is something that does very well into the Morgan Le Fay. So that's going to be something maybe they're looking for. Maybe they know that Alien Nation doesn't really value the Morgan. I know then Alien Nation go for the last ban onto Athena. Something that we've been seeing still kind of hang around at lower levels meta. I don't personally rate her that highly. But at a lot of the lower levels, her ability to just pick one lane and just guarantee that it gets a lead is just really oppressive. And the last ban coming through here is Raijin. That does leave that Morgan Le Fay open that you were talking about, Snake.
Yeah, and as you say, if Alien Nation is not going to pick it, I guess they're not prioritizing it. But I'm really surprised because she's such an oppressive and high damage mage that brings so much to your team fighting. So I don't see why not pick her.
I think something that I've been seeing a lot of higher level teams do, allowing the Morgan Le Fay through and then picking a lot of pressure into it. And with Rama being one of just straight up the best hunters in the game right now, I'm not really surprised to see teams that have proficient Rama players prioritizing that. But it will be interesting because, like you said, when Morgan gets to cast all of those abilities, her damage is absolutely oppressive. So let's see if Dismay picks that up because it was left open.
Yeah, and there's no surprise there. She's being hovered and she's picked now. Also, the Osiris, a really pick that I like too because now he's considered maybe kind of a flex pick. It can go into the jungle as well and in solo.
Yeah, it can. And we've been seeing, I would say, mostly Osiris in jungle, but there have been a lot of flexes. There have been teams that like running it. And it doesn't really have too bad of matchups into most things, especially when picked this high to flex. Now, Serket and Hell being hovered from Alien Nation. And you've got to kind of wonder to yourself, we've seen a lot of Hell, but we've seen it being flexed super high. Do we think that's going to be a Hell to be put up against this Morgan, or do you think that could have the flex potential to be looking towards the solo lane role?
Considering that they already picked Osiris, I don't think Hell is going to be in the mid lane. Maybe, she's going to be in the mid lane, not solo. Maybe I'm wrong, but I guess having a healer against Morgan, it's going to be really efficient, especially in the 3v3 in the mid game. So for me, I guess the Hell is going mid.
And I really like this Sobek look. You've got anti-heal, you've got a lot of disruption, and then you don't have too bad peel either. Serket struggles to pick this Sobek. Really good look. from Dismay. Top 3 locked in. Both teams have some very strong picks. And then as we're heading in to this second phase, I'm looking for Dismay to start to ban out frontliners. We know what Alien Nation's backline looks at. We know what some of their initiation is going to look like. But we've got to start looking at how are they going to frontline against us right now. Because, again, Morgan, if she gets to cast, great. The issue is she's very diveable if you time that right. So Yamoja being taken out, that's going to take the walls away. Izanami taken out in response. What do you think we're looking at for these last 2 bans here?
Emir, totally. I guess he's still one of the strongest supports in the game. His CC and his initiation is so good, and there we go.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'm honestly looking for some more anti-heal to be taken out here from Alien Nation. As we've talked about this Osiris being able to flex, I think Cerberus is still a very good pick. And with Cerberus being open, yeah, there it is. With Cerberus being open, Cerberus and Sobek can both flex either way, just depending on the matchup. Does very well into what we've got. So no surprise there to see that Dismay have the top pick of the second phase of picks, and we'll see what they opt to lock in. They've got probably an ADC, or it looks like they're going to round out that front line with potentially a Cullen.
Yeah, Kukulan, it's been, at the start of the season, he was considered one of the strongest warriors, especially because of the dominance of the Bullstone. Now, not so much. We've started to see also more Guardians in the solo lane, but I think it's still a really good pick, especially when you try to dive with the Osiris. I guess both of them can be really a trouble for the backline.
Yeah, absolutely. And the word that I'm looking at right now, honestly, is just initiation. Dismay has so many different ways to initiate. Sobek has great initiation. Osiris can initiate. Kukulin has phenomenal initiation. So positioning is going to be really, really key here for Alien Nation. And it looks like we've got some spice. Kukulkan hovered, which shoves hell to solo, you would think. But then we've also got a tier lock in. Tier Circuit flexing in those kind of rotator creator roles, unless we've got a hell support coming in. If you're Dismay, how in the world do you know what to pick? You just got to pick a hunter that can survive, I feel like, because how do you know what's going to be running at you?
Is Jake 408 not playing, right? Because there's no way that is tier support. But anyway, I think, well, this is a really tough spot for the other team because I really don't see, there's a lot of options now that I'm seeing from Alien Nation. And Dismay, they're hovering the handler, not the safest hunter, but I guess it's a good option.
I think I like Heim because in late game team fights, he's got a great amount of self-peel. He scales very well, and then he's very hard to gank. And it looks like this Alien Nation team is a team that wants to get ahead, wants to gank a lot, and then just group up and push stuff early with the lead that they've got. So I don't mind this. I was kind of looking at a little bit more of like a Jingwei, Chernobog situation, potentially even a Hachiman. But hey, Heimdallr, one of the best characters in the game for people who can play him to that level. So overall, we've got two vastly different drafts. On the side of Dismay, we're looking at one of, if not the most conventional comps that we could have right now, with the way the meta is working. And then on Alien Nation, okay, yeah, we've got some characters. It's going to be really interesting to see how this goes out. One word, which side do you give the advantage to?
If I have the certainty to know in the Alien Nation team which character is going to go which lane, I can say for sure. But for now, because my history said that my predictions suck, I'm just going to leave it at because I really don't know.
That's valid. Yeah, a lot up in the air as we go into this game. And without any further ado, that's exactly what we will do. We'll throw it over to Vengeance and Frog on the cast to bring us this exciting game.
Thank you guys on the desk. And Frog, we're seeing quite the interesting comp come out of Alien Nation. The tier jungle, the hell solo. and Circuit support.
I am so excited to talk about this composition. I think the Circuit support and the Hell solo are not as exciting as the tier, just because those are picks that we've seen before, especially recently. The Hell was all the rage a couple of weeks ago, but the most interesting thing to me is absolutely the tier, and I love this pick. I think we've been seeing a lot of warrior jungles recently. People have been up in arms over how much of a lack of impact the assassins have been having in the jungle role, and the jungle role has been having in general. And so we're seeing picks like the Osiris have a ton of success, and the Erlang Shen has had some success as well. So I think the tier his ability to go hybrid, just be in the backline, get a lot of CC down, and be another nuisance, as well as him still being able to provide a frontline source once we get towards that late game, still having at least one frontline character while you're lacking that maybe in the support and solo role, I think is definitely a good flex.
And we've gotten to see already a little bit of that Circuit support, that aggressive style coming out a little early, causing quite a bit of damage, and the dual lane of Dismay having to back off quite a bit towards their tower, only come back with the wave. We're gonna have to keep an eye on that lane moving forward, because we may be seeing a first blood come from over there pretty soon, depending on how they play. But with this gank, it doesn't matter though. Son of Two Dog on the Morgan Le Fay takes down Baradical for first blood.
Looking for the Kukulkan as well on the back end. Morgan will finish it off, starting off the game with a double kill. 2-0 already to Dismay, getting it off to an early 1,000 gold lead. And I think that's just a mistake out of the tier. Like, if you're going to blink engage, I like that idea. That's what tier's meant to do. You're going to go blink on that character 10 out of 10 times. And you should be looking for those plays, especially when it's just Morgan in the lane. Osiris was later than tier there. So I don't hate the idea. What I do hate is potentially this trade, because he's gonna... That's favoring the Hell there in my mind, because you're never gonna win the early game huge as Hell, but you have a potential to get ahead as Kukulkan. If you're just farming, you're just out pressuring, and you potentially go into that jungle and steal some of that farm. But that trade, I think, definitely favors the Hell.
Well, it's definitely gonna allow her to be the first one back to the lane. So the farm will be in her favor, absolutely. And we already see dual lane, another little bit of aggression coming out of Demise on this Circuit, trying to find anything he can to help his ADC out, but they're still not able to get that damage they're looking for. Dismay's dual lane doing a good job of sitting back, making sure they are not pickable very easily, and even positioning in a way that they may be the ones who find that first kill in this duo.
Yeah, definitely some aggression over in the dual lane, but also in this mid lane. Mini on this Kukulkan has been under constant pressure, it feels like, ever since that early engage. He's stayed at relatively low health for the last several minutes here in the mid lane, or at least 90 seconds or so. I guess we're only 3 minutes into the game. It's a little early to be making statements like that, but it definitely appears that this may have that mid pressure. It looks like they're trying to gank the Kukulkan right now.
Well, there's one of the downsides to Kukulkan. Even though he does have a movement speed stim, he does not really have any other sort of escapes. Once that's used, not too good, and he gets caught out of lane. He's falling 0-2. Son of Two Dog 2-0-1, and his jungler Scalaboo 1-0-2, finding the benefit so far, fighting over in this mid lane.
Yeah, I think Osiris hasn't been the one making the pressure in this mid lane, which is just a tout to what Snake was saying on the desk, the strength of this Morgan Le Fay when she's able to get those abilities off. Glacier had a fantastic point mentioning how she's not a super mobile character. She has a movement speed buff, she has some CC immunity, but similar to Kukulkan, she doesn't have any immediate dash. So if you are able to get on top of her and punish her and dive her successfully, she can be shut down. But the tier does not have the instantaneous damage to do that. He might later if he chooses something like a full damage build. I hope he doesn't. I think he's better hybrid. But there's potential to see that later with these two diving jungle support that are going to be filled with CC. There is some potential to shut down that Morgan, but right now the Osiris and the Morgan have all the pressure here.
It looks like Son of Two Dog may have, I don't know if he was baiting or just lazy backing, but He's been falling under attack by 2 members, but because there's 2 others from his team, instead it's going to be Pine and Baradical getting punished instead. Pine falling as well. Baradical trying to do it again to get out Dragon. He's falling on his own lane, but finally the tier will fall. Demise will trade Son of Two Dog out at last.
Looks
This
like
may
Morgan
only leave his ADC, and it does. Magnetic finding himself a double kill.
Looks like going 1 for 2 there on the side of, or excuse me, I think 1 for 3 is Piratical, Mini, and Weezer all fall on the side of Dismay. That's going to lead to this greater Scorpion, but once again, it just looks like they're stepping up to places where they can't be. They have to recognize how much stronger this Osiris in the jungle is going to be when compared to this tier at this stage of the game. The tier is almost, equating to yet another trade in the solo lane, as we see. Oh no, he does survive. I spoke too soon. That obviously does favor the good call, and I'm glad to see some fighting here, but we might actually see tier turn it around to try and trade.
It may not be the tier, but it will be the Serket Demise coming in, guaranteeing that he will fall, but it does not go to any way of the credit of the hell. No gold for assist or XP at all. So for now, Goose will still have that temporary lead.
And as I was saying, the Osiris versus the tier in terms of pressure is just always going to favor the Osiris in those elongated fights like we saw at the bottom left of mid around this red buff. And looks like they might go for the red buff invade here, and I completely favor this decision.
Well, they're definitely going to look for it as they have 2 members on the top, and they even have their own ADC coming in. For now, Magnetic's going to be alone, but in comes his support. Vibe's going to try and get some separation. Misses the block, but members are backing up through the whirlwind. Damage is going to be taken, and we see Demise. He latches onto one. The Serpent of the 9 Winds comes through, does some damage, but it doesn't matter. Mine falls instead. Weezer is going to trade out Magnetic, and they're still chasing on, trying to find 2 Dog. One shot hits, the other misses. The third's good for some more damage, but the kill still not there. Rolling forward, they want to guarantee the fall to get the trade. They do. Weezer's found a second kill of this fight. Radical finds the 3rd one onto Vibe, and it's all onto Blizzado to try and get away with this time. Doesn't have his crystals available yet, and Weezer gets a double kill in the end. That's an overall 4 for 1, and it looks like the Gold Fury as well.
Massive turn for Alien Nation taking that team fight, and Weasel Conundrum comes up huge. I mean, after his mid laner falls, he's just able to completely take control of that fight, getting 3 out of the 4 kills there. And Tyr and Serket both times, all the times that he was pushing up, Tyr and Serket found themselves in front of him, taking abilities, taking the damage, allowing him to survive at the end of that fight, and he's the one that is able to, as long as he survives, they can get the Gold Fury at the end of that, and that's what they do at that successful fight. I will say it did look like a little bit too much hesitation out of the side of Dismay. Osiris seemed content to go for that red invade. You saw that he was alone there for quite a while, and then one of their primary engage tools, Sobek Pluck, ends up falling on deaf ears, and they're unable to actually get anything going there, and they're caught in a bad spot, allowing Alien Nation to take advantage and get off to a nice even out of the gold lead, neutralizing those early kills that Dismay got. So we'll see how the next fight goes around this potentially neutral objective of the Fire Giant.
Well, we see an attempt for these neutral Harpies. One already going the way of Dismay, but Demise says, I'm going to go for the Morgan Le Fay. He's not getting anywhere near my mid lane, and if possible, try and find a kill. But instead, both teams just going to back away. And over in the solo lane, Dragon finding a little bit of an issue as there's a gank over on the duo side. Demise finally finds kill onto the 2 Dog over in the mid. That ADC falling left hand side is going to bring a little bit of trouble. Baradical, he's trying to do what he can against Goose. Dragon's there to give a little bit of healing to Coolin at level 10, a little too tanky, but Magnetic invading the red buff finds 1 kill. Will he make it a second? No. Able to leap away is Demise, but he will still strip away the buff.
action in both the mid lane and, in fact, all 3 lanes there. No kill coming out of solo, but we do get one in mid and we get one in duo that transfers towards yet another one in mid. The Osiris taking out both the carry and the mid laner for the side of Alienation, and he has maintained his lead over Baratical on this tier. Even increased it from a 2-level lead to a 3-level lead now. 6-1-3 start for this Osiris, absolutely dominating the map right now, and I think he's going to try and keep this pressure up. He's been at the last 2 red buffs. I would be surprised to not see him at the next one.
I definitely wouldn't. Matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised to see a few more members there with him next time around, possibly trying to bait out a full fight. But I'll have to be careful because they were ready the time before, and it did not go the way that Dismay wanted it to. And this is why we only see Greater Scorpion up on the right-hand side of the map still. Neither team even bothering with that one as of yet. Almost 11 minutes into this one. What we do see is Demise. Looks like he's setting up for a potential kill. Instead, recognizing there's 2 there, doesn't want to take the risk. Gonna take the safer route, but Magnetic, he may be hunting for a hell.
Yeah, he is in the enemy side of the jungle here, trying to come around on Dragon here. He's low under the tower. Goose starts with that ultimate, but it looks like Hell's going to get some damage off and push up, but it's Baratical actually onto this Osiris, delaying him in the backline, which allowed Hell to get that damage off. So it looks like no kills will be traded this time.
No, and that's a good pathing out from Baratical, able to stop that one just in time. It looks like there may have been a ward possibly crossed by Magnetic to let him know that, hey, someone needs to go check. And it was interesting to see Dragon go aggressive against Goose in that situation, but it all worked out in the end for him. Red buff will not be contested this time by Dismay. It is free for Alienation. The Oracles, there's a chance they get contested. They go down, it looks like, just in time. But Demise shows up with the leap. The pluck attempt, it does not get him anywhere towards his team. In fact, it goes away. But the Whirlwind falls onto 2Dog. Demise goes through, but Weezer with the ultimate's gonna snipe him down. Also damaging Vibe and Magnetic. Demise looks like the poison from his ultimate was more than good enough, spreading onto the support back under the tier 1 tower for the jungler of Dismay. Over on the left hand side, we see the fighting between the 2 ADCs, but Weezer is just a little bit stronger, even using the bead so he doesn't get sent into Niflheim. This will also cost the tier 1 tower and possibly the Oni Fury that's going to spawn here in a few seconds.
And that fight just changes the entire landscape of the map. All of a sudden, it's not a 3-level lead in the jungle, it's just a 1-level lead. And now we have a 2-level lead for the opposition in that dual lane. Weezer Conundrum making waves over here, not only able to help out with that team fight, but also able to get that solo kill on Blizzado. And it was just such a well-taken fight from Alienation there, and it was all about positioning for me. They saw them on the Oracles, they chose to chase them into that corridor tier, starting off with a fantastic Blink Fearless, puts Morgan in a little bit of a rough spot, and all of a sudden everybody's running down the same path, and you get Spirit of the 9 Winds and Rama ultimate to just fire into that corridor, clean up some of those kills. And you're absolutely right, not only do they get that tier 1 tower, but they do clean up that Oni Fury. Both Furies now going in the favor of Alienation, and they finally secured themselves a solid gold lead at about 1,500 to 1,600. Nothing crazy, nothing that's absolutely going to push them ahead of the game right here, but I think they're starting to get ahead in the experience part, especially over in the dual lane. Both duo characters having a 2-level lead over their counterparts. I think what they need to focus on next is this solo lane. She's the only one, as well as the jungle. Both of them have a serious deficit right now, matching or, offsetting that XP lead that the dual lane has. I think if they continue to fight around the dual lane side of the map, they'll have success. They'll continue to get this damage from Rama, but Tyr and Hell need those levels to be effective, especially Hell. A mage in the solo lane is going to struggle without that XP.
The worst part for Dismay is this Greater Scorpion that is now finally being done by Alienation was still up, so there's nothing to trade out. And even worse, all tier 1 towers are gone shortly after that fight. All map pressure is in favor of Alien Nation having 5 tier 1 towers standing. Maybe 4 here in a second because it looks like Blizzado wants to split push it. But there's a fight happening in mid. The Lawbreaker comes out, wants to find something, and the Spirit of the Nine Winds is good to find the damage. Demise is going to help guarantee that Weezer will pick up that kill with the ultimate. The snipes are good. The tier 2 is being sieged. He finds himself a kill on the support. That takedown vibe 2 for none so far. Dragon being low health is being chased out in the jungle, but it's all good because Goose is not a part of this fight. The tier 2 in mid falls. Alien Nation 2 for 1 across the map and the tier 2.
It's all about Weezer Conundrum right now. His presence on this Rama is what is determining these fights. He's not doing all the damage. I won't give him 100% credit. That Spirit of the Nine Winds from Kukulkan was absolutely crucial. The Serket setting up some great crowd control, the tier being a great zoning presence. Everybody's doing their job, but it seems that Alien Nation is pushing up off of this Rama's presence. When he's there, when he's available to take part in the fight, whether he does the damage or not, that's the go button for Alien Nation. And I love that they seem to all be on the same page. They're all aware, okay, we're going to let Heimdallr split push here. That's totally fine. We have our Rama. We are going to take the fight, and they find success each time they do it. They've continued to find success, and I really need them to stop doing just objectives and start thinking about the final stages of the game, because at some point they're going to have to deal with this Kukulkan. He's been a dominant force in this solo lane. The Hell has been quietly over here farming, still 2 levels down now. She's just ticked over to level 14, and Kukulkan should have rotated. I do believe he's kind of wasting his presence just over here in the solo lane farming. He should have rotated a lot earlier, but no matter what, no matter how you slice the game, you can't just walk down mid and win the game without dealing with this presence. And so they have to be ready for when he gets into these team fights, and I'm not sure that they are going to be, but they have to continue to play around this Rama.
Well, we're gonna see a skirmish begin at the minimum here, and it's on to that Kukulkan that you were talking about just a second ago, as Radical is taking quite a bit of poke after the rage transformation. Oh, but catching out on the aggressive jungle stance. We see 2Dog fall to Weezer, and they're gonna continue this chase even deeper. Vibe, the one being picked on now, he finds himself a double kill as a result. With that second, he may be looking for a third, but Radical is gonna be the one to finish off Blizzado, and that's 3 for none. This Kukulkan, even though he's got this lead, is turning tail instead. Finds himself back in the fountain. His teammates fall in the meantime. And you know what? This may be all they have to do to deal with him. They don't even have to make him fall, just make him leave the fight.
Completely agree. It was a good credit to Alien Nation there to take fights on 2 separate areas of the map. In one area, you're taking this Kukulkan's attention, forcing his rage form, forcing his ultimate, getting a little bit of damage on him, but your real goal is to back him off, because he can't take a 1v3. Nobody can at this stage of the game, not even Rama, right? But they are ending up taking up a different 2v2 towards that greater Scorpion spawn on the right side of the map. Rama able to take out their mid laner. Morgan doesn't even get a chance to ult in that engagement, doesn't get a chance to basically do any damage to any of the team members from Alien Nation. And when you're missing the damage from your mid laner, I mean, your Kukulkan could do everything, and you're still not gonna have an advantage in that fight ever, right? But then the Kukulkan proceeds to back. I mean, he's still 75 to 80% HP, and he lets his team continue to engage around the blue buff while he himself returns to the base, not grouping up, not going with the team. Whether or not he's making the calls or whoever's making the calls, they need to be on the same page, and they need to be playing together. They can't let themselves get separated like that.
Looks like Alien Nation are looking for this right hand tier 2. Goose is here with Magnetic, but that's not enough to stop them. They're going to keep on surging forward, and it looks like, okay, they are going to just do some warding. How many of them were going to do it? I was a little worried they were rotating towards mid, but this right side still showing some signs of aggression. But the entire team of Dismay has showed up, so now with that knowledge, the rotation will begin across the map, clearing up these mid minions. It looks like the left-hand tier 2 is going to be their call. Just play it safe. Take down everything you know you can for sure. And then look at Phoenix's after. we've been talking a lot about these ADCs, and the only difference in build we're seeing so far is crit versus full attack speed.
And no stacks on that Rage now for Blizzado. He's been unable to get involved in these fights since he built that item, so he's not going to have the additional crit chance that you're getting from that item, and he's still going to be relatively low on the crit chance, only about 30%, and there's not a ton of power in his build either. Odysseus' bow not giving any power whatsoever, just the attack speed. So 2 items relatively low in power, and he's severely relying on those crits all of a sudden, and he's still yet to have a serious amount of crit chance. I mean, this could be shut down even harder than it is already by the members of Alien Nation going into those spectral armors, which we might see them do in those last item slots if this time Delir starts to be a problem, but currently he's not even a problem. You don't need those spectral armors if he only has 30% crit and barely enough power to make those crits hurt a ton. But what I will say is this exactly what I was going to talk about, this hover pointed out by our production team. Vibe Legion is 20 minutes into the game and has yet to stack up his Gauntlet of Thieves. He's gotten a full item and a half past that Gauntlet of Thieves, and he's not even 80% done stacking the item. I'm not sure what he's been doing. He's been trying to engage these fights perhaps a little bit too much and focused on engagements that haven't come to fruition as opposed to farming and stemming the bleeding, but regardless, he is sincerely lacking.
Not only that, but there's only 2 stacks on this Kieran's coin for 2 dog. But Goose has decided to do a full send engage, and it's all for naught. Minipine will get the kill credit with the whirlwind. His team, Dismay, still under the Phoenix, instead not able to get close enough to help him out. On the left-hand side will be Siege. Here comes that ultimate from Kukulkan. He finds a couple members to hit. Radical cleans up 2 dog, and the charge begins. They want to find the rest. Minipine finds Magnetic. And another one for a double kill onto Blizzado. Vibe all alone in the back end will fall to Weezer in the ultimate. And this is going to be in the Titan room, and with how much respawn time there is, game number 1 in convincing fashion will go to Alien Nation.
One thing that I said in the mid game there, or towards when they were getting that fire giant, was that no matter how you slice it, you're going to have to siege against 5, and you're going to have to eventually deal with the Kukulkan. Another thing that I said during that game was that it doesn't matter how big the Kukulkan is if you're not going to play together, and they're going to let themselves be split like that. And I'll continue to say I don't know who was making those calls, but it was clearly 2 different people, because on that last engage, you cannot, under any circumstances, have that Kukulkan going in alone, hitting a multiple man ultimate, absorbing several cooldowns from the side of Alien Nation, and his team stood under Phoenix. All of them were half HP, no cooldowns expended from the side of Dismay whatsoever. They stood there and essentially watched their Kukulkan die. Now, I don't know who the blame needs to be placed on, but it was clearly a miscommunication whether they were going in right there, and with those type of miscommunications, you could have a 3-level lead on your entire team, and you would still end up in a 5v4 position, losing your Phoenix right there. It's not a good look for them, and they need to clean up that communication and teamwork if they want a chance in game 2.
Well, if we're playing the blame game here, the only blame we're going to say is it is a team effort. So you win as a team, you lose as a team. Alien Nation will have a discussion for themselves going into game number 2. Actually, not Alien Nation, sorry. Dismay will have a discussion for themselves for game number 2. But as we get ready for that second game, we're going to go ahead and throw it back to the desk to talk about what went wrong and right for game number 1.
All right, so Snake, I'm going to ask you kind of an open-ended question. I'm going to let you talk about it real quick, okay? What is the number 1 way to look like you're doing nothing but still be useful to your team?
Doing objectives?
Doing objectives, and then the big thing for me is getting your big ult off. And that's what I wanted to point out. Right, look at this game, look at the beginning. Let's go back to the beginning real quick. This Kukulkan started 0-5. did nothing, or at least looked like he did nothing, right? But then if you look at the damage charts, the only people with more damage than him were the Rama that was like just absolutely melting everyone, and the Kukulin who was only damaging a Hell in lane. This Cuckoo, the famous words of Moswell back, when Splice won Worlds, and someone asked him why he was playing the characters he was playing. He said, I don't know, man, mid sucks. You just press 4 and die. But, like, it has to be in that order, right? And I think that, like, the big thing that got Alien Nation through this early game, through the immense amount of pressure that they were under, there was a lot of different things. I don't want to just put it all on one person, right? Duo popped off. But I want to bring attention to the fact that this Kukulkan did not die without getting every single ounce of damage he could a single time.
You had a really good point there, because I was looking through the other lanes. For me, what you said, it was a really good book, but for me, this was a dual lane diff like 100%, because at the end of the game, Sobek ended like level 13, 14, and he couldn't even finish 3 items when like Circuit had like her level 17 item done at like 3 other items.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, the Rama, the Popov, he was I guess he was the most damage in the game. So for me, it was a big dual lane difference that they do right everything in every team fight they were. So for me, it was that, but you had a really good point there of the Kukulkan, hiding everything ultimate, doing as much damage as he could. And I guess that led us to, think about a really similar draft in the second game. Even though we thought it was a weird draft, it worked. I don't see why not they're going to run off a similar way into the second game.
Yeah, my biggest thing is I'm expecting to see aggression again out of Demise in this support role. He had a lot of value, and he never once died. And I did want to also bring attention to his itemization. Finally, Blackthorn Hammer back in the game, baby. Got a fairly sizable buff with this last patch. And we've been seeing some supports build Sledge for a little bit now. And honestly, cannot express enough how much I just hate that. Don't really like Sledge. Not a fan of Sledge right now in its current state. But I think Blackthorn coming back is really interesting for these assassins and these warrior supports. So I was happy to see that. All right, let's talk switch-ups. What is the big change that Dismay needs to make going into this next game, right? They had everything set up for them. This Osiris started like 5-1. We had a huge solo laner. This Morgan LeFay started 2 kills at like a minute and a half. What went wrong? What needs to be the switch up for them to take that early game success and transition it throughout this game?
They wouldn't call it success just because they had a few kills. There were always like kills in the other team too. Like there was this bounce of kills in with both teams in the early game, and at the end, like that led to nothing. And the teams who won the most team fights in the mid game made that snowball to the late game. So draft wise, I don't see any problems because their draft was good. It's just when it comes to the execution of the draft, I guess they were a little lost, maybe because the weird draft the other team had. But now that they know what, or maybe what's going to happen, with the weird draft and stuff, maybe they know what to expect, and maybe, play a little bit more wise in the early game, because even though they had skills and advantages, at the mid game, they couldn't capitalize that. So draft wise, I guess nothing, but in the execution and the tactics when you are going to play the game, I think they need to sharp a little bit that.
Yeah, I absolutely understand what you mean. And well, speaking of draft, you heard it. Snake doesn't think anything needs to change too much in the draft. Let's see if Dismay agrees. We've got picks and bans ready for y'all. for game number 2 here, coming right up. And it looks like Dismay said enough with this second pick. We're going to take top and we're going to own it. So let's see here. I am expecting fairly similar bans, honestly. Draft may be a little bit different priority, but honestly, bans I'm expecting similar. And here's the big thing for that. Alien Nation banned Tiamat from top pick, which means that that's something they absolutely do not value. So I don't think Dismay in a million years are going to be banning that. And yeah, exactly that. Artemis, and Tiamat, top 2 bans once again. Nothing surprising there.
Yeah, I'm expecting other top bans too, like Odin, Gilgamesh. But I'm really curious if they're going to ban anything from the other team draft. Maybe they will ban the Circuit. She was causing a lot of trouble in the team fights, or maybe they might go ban the Ram, who did the most player damage in the last batch.
Yeah, that's a good look. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I almost think about banning the Hell, but I think you're right. I think that Circuit was probably a lot of where those early pressures come through. And that Hell, as oppressive as it can be, didn't ever really get to the point in the game where it was super oppressive. Just had one rotation where any character out-rotating by that much would have been impactful. So, yeah, you were 100% right on the ball. Circuit ban there. And I do like that for Dismay. Let's see if they can't make Alien Nation a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, that maybe will let them to kind of change a little bit the draft, because since they don't have the Circuit and the other assassin support that they can go maybe will be Fenrir, but I think that changes a bit, and I'm really willing to see which is going to be the support pick for Alien Nation.
Yeah, absolutely. And top pick, Dismay. Yeah, we called it last game. Man was what, 5-1, 6-2. He absolutely owned that early game. They were very comfortable with it. I like this. There's nothing I like better than a team getting absolutely rolled with a draft and saying, no, screw you, we just messed up, we'll fix it. And then they take the exact same picks. I love that. And on the other side, Alien Nation, Fenrir and Hell being hovered here. Hell, not super surprising. From the way that Solo went, I don't really think this is a solo laner who's going to be trying to really focus on pressure that much. But the Fenrir pick this high up, do you think that might be one of those aggressive support picks we're looking for, or are you expecting to see this more in the jungle?
Judging the last match, I'm really think that Fenrir is going to the support role. Maybe not. We still have the other draft to see, but just because they got the Circuit band, I think the Fenrir is going for support for Alien Nations.
Yeah, we'll definitely see on that one. It's going to be the Rama pick to take that away. And hey, that's a great look. I like to see that. And then as well, Yamoja. Something that was a little bit surprising to get all the way through in the first game, is she's one of, the 3 best characters in the game, bar none, if you can pilot her at a high level. But we're not at that Masters SOC SEC level, so it is interesting to kind of see the different characters that are valued. I love to see this, though. I just hope that the player is able to execute up to, because I like it. It's ballsy, though, picking it into the Fenrir.
Yeah, I guess what they're trying to do is try to contrast the Hell healing, and now they will have a healing. But it's kind of weird for me because Hell, didn't really got to that point that she was just an unkillable machine healing the whole team. So I don't see why the Jamuja now. I mean, she's a good support. You said it, like she's one of the best characters in the game right now. But they didn't prioritize her in the last match, and now I feel like they're doing it just because the health healing. So I don't know, maybe they can get away with it.
Well, not only the hell healing, but it also does provide something in teamfights that they were really lacking last game, which is zone control. They didn't really have a way to set up a zone and say, you don't get to stand here. And I think that it's good for them this time to have a little bit more of an ability to do so. Last game, you know, their zone control was, if you stand here, you're going to die because we're just running at you, so run away. You know, until they were behind, it worked, and then as soon as they're behind, it doesn't work anymore. So it's going to be interesting to me to see what they're going to be pulling out in solo, what they're going to be pulling out in mid, because so far this is the start of a really good, really solid, normal draft. And on Alien Nation, I mean, dude, it looks normal. It looks normal, but judging last game, I mean, that hell has to be solo. That Fen, I'm expecting to be support. Not anything super normal. Morgan Le Fay is banned in the second phase, and then Cerberus is going to be banned again. Merlin ban, last ban here for Dismay. I'd almost like to see them just take some shots at Warriors, because I feel like the way last game was played, I don't expect the jungler for Alien Nation to be on something that's not a Warrior. He pulled out Tier for crying out loud, so looks like they're going to go for the Raijin, though. And honestly, that's not a bad ban either. Raijin, one of the absolute top mages in the game right now.
Yeah, and I really feel with the Morgan ban, it's kind of weird for me because they picked it last game and they do really well. But now the Janus is an interesting one because, you know, Janus is one of these high risk, high reward picks when you need to, you know, pilot it really, really well to have some value. And maybe they're feeling themselves and just pick it.
Maybe, yeah. The Giannis pick here. I always say Giannis is not a character, he's a play style. And I think that's the big thing to remember, is with the way this last game went, we know Dismay is going to be absolutely running it down. So let's give Alien Nation a safe mid to provide utility for those hard carry characters, for that dual lane, for those team fights. Cthulhu, Soul both being hovered. And again, Dismay playing right up to meta. Cthulhu, one of the best space creators in the game. Soul, her 2-4 is an execute, man. That character is ridiculous. Got a great comp here. From Dismay, my one question about the comp is, if your lanes don't win, how do you stop this Alien Nation roster from just running at you? That's my question here.
I really don't know. And seeing the tier hover, I think my guess was right, and Fenrir is going to be in the support role, but Mulan being hovered, this is interesting.
Mulan, now, I'm not going to say that Mulan is just a bad character, but I feel as if Mulan is kind of the closest we have to just a bad character for competitive. A lot of her abilities feel fairly clunky. A lot of her kit doesn't really feel super great in that jungle. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see the amount of pressure that they can possibly get, because on the other side, Mulan does hit like a truck in the early game.
Yeah, but you're losing the CC and the control of the tier. And either is she going jungle or support, I think the tier was way better than Mulan in this situation. But, you know, maybe for the Janos pick, I feel like they're really confident. They're feeling themselves. Maybe that's a win point here.
Absolutely. And I get that. I agree with that 100%. This is what I'm looking for in this game. If Dismay can get to 20 minutes without being down like 5, 10k gold, I genuinely think they're in it. But like Frog said last game, they've got to step up the comms, they've got to step up the way they play the map, and they've got to get there. And against this Alien Nation team, it might be hard for them to do so. That's enough from us, though. Let's get down to see exactly what happens. Let's get down to see if they do get there. Vengeance. Let's watch the game.
And coming into game number 2, and Frog, this is a much different looking composition for both teams compared to the last one. So the only similarities we're seeing are ADCs, one jungler, and one solo laner.
Yeah, looks like we do have the Osiris coming back for Dismay and the Hell coming back for Dragon. And it is the same ADC picks, but they're flipped this time. Blizzato playing the Rama and Weezer taking his Heimdallr. Now, we saw the Rama win this matchup, including the solo kill last game. So we'll get the answer this game as to whether it's the pick or the player as to, you know, who wins this matchup this game. But it is a huge change up in the mid lane role for both squads. Giannis being an incredibly different play style from the Kukulkan, not necessarily looking, I mean, don't get me wrong, that through space and time can have a similar effect to a Spirit of the Nine Winds if you're putting it through the fight at the right spot, but it's not necessarily the look for hold that thought. Actually, I did not think that was going to be a full kill. Son of Two Dog, though, finishing it off with the Stellar Burst, taking out Alien Nation's jungler for the first blood. Another warrior here in the jungle, but not as off to a good start.
Well, this is the same start Dismay had game number 1. Magnetic rotating in with Two Dog and finding quick first blood over in the mid lane. So for now, we'll have to see how this is going to play out this time around. We do see this, again, the aggressive support coming out from Alien Nation. Demise enjoying these assassins so far, it seems. He's going to go in. He actually does manage to hit a double stun, but he's not able to find any follow-up damage or any serious damage in the meantime. Because with this Emoja there, the CC and the healing is a possibility. They're going to be settling underneath their tier 1 tower, and already we're finding a second kill for Son of Two Dog onto Baradical, coming right back into mid, just getting bursted all the way down. Mini Pine taking quite a bit of damage as well.
Yeah, similar to last game, just not off to a good start in mid at all for the side of Alien Nation. B-Radical has fallen twice already. Last time it was Radical and Mini Pine combining for 2 deaths. This time it's just Radical on his own. And he's already fallen a level behind. And if this keeps up like it did last game, he's going to continue to fall farther behind. But it was really his presence in the late game team fights as a zoning god, you know, a space creator, using that warrior jungle, that hybrid build that he had to make that space, not necessarily doing the damage, not necessarily getting the kills, and falling early isn't going to prevent him from doing that.
Over into it, we see another double stun, but yet again, nothing going to come of it. It looks like Demise, the way he plays these guys is just try and keep them as far back as possible. Let them know they're not going to be able to attain any pressure that easily without taking him down. And that's already going to be tough enough. Over in mid lane, we do see Mini Pine's going to have to be careful because he's all alone. And it's only the jungler so far. Where's the mid?
Yeah, it does look like they still want to maintain this pressure here in mid. Soul ended up backing, going to grab this support buff as well, as they're also on their own buff for the dual lane. But we haven't seen as much of that pressure over here in the Soul lane as we did last game. Last game, if you recall, we had the Kukulkan over the Cthulhu in that solo lane, and we saw an early solo kill and a continuing fight over there. But hold that thought, actually, it looks like we're going to get an engagement here on the dual lane. Giannis ult incoming.
Well, Demise, he's gonna find the kill onto Vibe, and in comes the jungler and mid laner Baradical. Gonna finish off Blizzato. Already the first 2 kills of the game have been returned in full. They're finding themselves down about 2, maybe 300 gold at worst. Over in solo lane, Dragon, he's the one feeling big this time around, as Goose on this Cthulhu is not having the same kind of impact.
It's actually Magnetic coming around the back here, trying to get a little bit of damage onto Strength of Dragon, but not able to get enough off in time to feel comfortable diving that tower. But we'll talk about the mid laners once again and how big of a change up this is. I got interrupted last time by some kills, but it's really about this Giannis versus this Kukulkan and how different of play styles those gods want to execute. And I'm gonna get interrupted again as we get some action here in the mid lane. Son of Two Dog falling early, but able to get that soul ult off, and Osiris might be carried under tower here. No, we will get the beads forced out of him, and Mini Pine will survive. So a good early support rotation there from Demise, able to get to lane significantly faster than Vibe, and Soul gets punished for it.
And this is the type of gameplay we are seeing in game number 1, just a little bit sooner. Alien Nation just playing their time, looking for any opening. As soon as they see it, they take it, and every time they have so far, they've come out on top. And yet again, that 2-0 start, Two Dog completely erased. Not only that, but finding himself down to Mini Pine by probably half a level at most at the moment.
Yeah, I did just take over to level 7 after getting that red buff, but maybe finally I'll get a chance to talk about how that Giannis ult was used so well to get that gank on the left side dual lane. I'm not actually sure if it hit anybody or got that damage off, but just being used as a traversing tool to get Mulan, to get Giannis over towards that dual lane, guarantee those 2 kills to be answered back early on in the game. And if that's the mindset that he's going to have early, that's the mindset I continue to expect him to have as we get later into that game. Don't be surprised if you're seeing those Giannis ults consistently traveling towards the side lanes. As it looked once again, Hell, as you mentioned, getting much more aggressive, feeling more confident in this soul lane. She just stepped up a little bit past midway through the lane, but we're not seeing her super low health. We've yet to see that so far. Cthulhu has just had a not as good of a hold on this lane as Cullen did last game.
Over in the mid lane, Demise doing enough work to keep support mid lane of Dismay back. What we do see is a rotation with the gank onto Solo, and Goose with the ultimate will find the kill onto Strength of the Dragon. Finally, the hell has fallen over in the solo lane, whereas Goose last game had I'd say much more pressure at this point. But in return, Baradical looking towards this dual lane. There's no one else here, so he may find something. He gets the pull, he gets the transition over to the kill as well. Lozado falling right as Weezer comes back into lane. Mid lane, Ragnarok comes out. He wants to give Mini Pine something here, and it is gonna fall. No! Magnetic coming in, takes down Demise, saving the life of his mid laner, who just in time gets into the Saporate.
It is Saporate timing itself perfectly there. They tried to get all that damage off at once, not even using the beads for soul. She saved that relic, and she felt like she knew she was going to survive. She knew it would time itself out okay. She knew that her jungler was on the way, so props to her for correctly staying calm in that scenario, and they are able to trade out Demise. But also Blizzato, just a little bit of a lazy back over there in the dual lane, costs him his life, puts him a little bit of XP down, falling at 2 deaths already in this game, as opposed to the 2 assists attributed to the Heimdallr. But one thing that worries me is this focus on the soul lane. Osiris has spent a good amount of time over here. He's over here right now. They might even try to put some more pressure on the Hell, but they did this last time. They put some pressure on the soul lane. Kukulkan found himself 3 levels ahead, and he was just never able to rotate across the map, make an impact in those fights. So I'm not sure if this is the play.
Oh, we see the damage coming in onto Magnetic. He uses his ultimate to go up, down, get some anti-heal onto Strength of Dragon. Baradical use it to walk away, no longer allowing this engagement to happen. And we are going to see Demise come over the attack speed buff on the side of Dismay. And he's going to take that away from them, not allow his Rom to be able to continue leveling up as quickly as Weezer. But over on the other side of the map, we see Two Dog rotating over where his soul laner is, clean up a kill onto Baradical, find himself his 3rd kill of the game.
Yeah, Baradical, that's his 3rd death as well, and just falling a couple too many times so far, trying to get things going. But as I said before, these early deaths don't have nearly as much impact as he will towards the late game. But it looks like he's not going similar to that hybrid build he went last game on the tier, instead finishing that ranked as match. So he's going to be taking extra damage here in these engagements already off the bat, and he's going into that Soul Eater as his next item. So no defense off the bat for him as this Mulan jungle. I do not agree with this decision, especially going into that Eye of the Jungle. You're going to want to go into Protector of the Jungle. That's going to give you an additional percentage of protections, which is not, you know, 20% of 0 protections is also 0 protections. So the lower protections you have, the less that percentage is going to mean once you get to upgrade that starter item. There's a chance he goes the other way, and maybe he does with this full damage decision, but it's looking like he's playing less into how he was trying to play around the map the last game, and he's going to be trying to play much more dedicated to this damage, dedicated to getting himself into the backline, finding these kills by himself, maybe now that he has a Fenrir, which is a little bit more of a backline presence.
Oh, and after that stun, in comes Miradical, trying to find anything he can, but is unable to do so. As up comes the water walls from Vibe, getting that ultimate off, but we see a through space and time over towards Duo, and immediately that brings Blizzato rotating back towards his tier 1 where Magnetic is at, just front in front on safety. But instead, Alienation, they're going to have to settle for just taking down the purple buff. And this Gold Fury, 11 minutes in, still not being looked at.
Looks like they will steal away the purple buff. Magnetic sticking around here perhaps longer than he should if they're going to try and take this tier 1 tower, but smartly knows when to back off. And it's once again Alienation focusing around these objectives. They're not going to take the Fire Giant Scorpion this time, although they did take that Gold Fury Greater Scorpion earlier on in the game, but they will take the first tier 1 tower. Excuse me, sorry, Soul taking the first tier 1 tower on the map, excuse me, as we're trading that out mid lane tier 1 earlier taken versus the dual lane tier 1. So not as much of a forward-leaning tower or tower-sided, objective-sided game in the face of Alienation. In fact, Dismay having the confident gold lead at this stage of the game, similar to how they did last game. But it was really that first Gold Fury fight going in Alienation's favor, got them the objective, evened up the gold lead, and they used that to push some of their tier 1 towers early on towards the last game. So I expect to see that fight soon.
And it's a much better game so far for Dismay going into this mid side. And we see, as you mentioned, they get the first tower down, and it's going to be in mid, allowing that rotation to both side lanes. The tier 1 duo was traded out, but for that tier 1 and mid, they still have the ability to clear both sides. And now we have all 3 objectives up at the same time this early on. It's going to be a little difficult for either team to really make their immediate decisions without having those kills. And at this point, we may be able to see some Pyromancer trades for this Gold Fury.
Absolutely. Always a good choice to get that Pyromancer if you know that you're going to lose that Gold Fury fight, or if you've lost a couple of picks. It is a good consolation prize. But Magnetic pushing up a little bit for these Oracles, going to force Fenrir into the Ragnarok to try and escape, and he might grab him on the back end, but it looks like just a wash, forcing out the Fenrir's ultimate. But Hell is late on this rotation.
We already see over here Goose. He's doing everything he can to keep Mini Pine away from this Gold Fury. Through space and time has been used, but it's a little too early. Gold Fury actually being dropped by Dismay as this fight is coming through. Dragon has finally shown up. He's trying to get some healing off for his team. And without the ADC here, Dismay are finding themselves in a little bit of a sticky situation, but Dragon overextends all too much on his own. Radical chased down by Goose, both of them falling. Mini Pine and Mize, Weezer, all at this point are gonna have to just back off. And this Gold Fury may finally be able to be taken down by Dismay.
Yeah, and what a great showing there from Goose, fixing some of those mistakes that he had in game 1. What do we see from him? What did we ask for him in game 1? A rotation, an early rotation to make use of that 2-level lead that he had in solo. We never saw that in game 1. And as soon as he comes over here and does it in game 2, he pushed out the Giannis early, forcing a premature through space and time. He forces out the Mulan, takes that kill, but now it's the Gold Fury started up again.
Is being pulled, it's being leashed. Ragnarok is used, pulling him further away. And Alienation going to pick it up. All members of Dismay instead put their attention onto Demise, and the Gold Fury became free for the other team. And now in the back line, we see Goose He's trying to cause as much chaos as possible, but Radical able to get himself away and further back, but Goose will fall. Demise claiming his life. This is only looking worse for Dismay. If there's a time to get out, it is now. And just with a couple of seconds and decisions, Alien Nation have found themselves an opening.
Yeah, Alien Nation, clearly their attempt worked at a distraction play. I don't think it should have. I think Dismay should have remained a little bit more concerned about the Gold Fury as opposed to the play that the Fenrir made, but have to give credit where credit's due. Demise on this Fenrir, pulling out the Ragnarok and just walking through 4 members of the enemy team. And all 4 members turn to focus on him. They all drop the Gold Fury. They're all focused on this Fenrir, and Fenrir doesn't even grab anybody. He just lets his team pick up the Gold Fury. They get it for themselves. Fenrir uses his 2 movement abilities, jumps away, able to walk safely back up the dual lane, and they will get this consolation prize in the form of the Pyromancer. So not as big of a blow as it could have been. In fact, gold's pretty even at this point, and XP leaning towards the side of Dismay as well. So they still remain in the advantage, especially if they continue to be able to take advantage of this lead they have in the solo lane, which has continued to be a struggle for them. But they need to stay more focused on what really matters in these core team fights. They can't let Fenrir just walking through for him. I mean, he didn't have any damage behind him. Nobody went with him. It was just Fenrir, and they let their entire fight fall apart because of that.
Oh, yet again, we're seeing the Ragnarok used, and in return, Goose is going to pop his own. He's all alone, his team nowhere nearby. The Sunder was used, so Goose falls, trying to get under his tier 1 tower. And this leaves no opportunity for Dismay to return any kills unless members of Alien Nation continue backing. As Magnetic has come through, but Demise comes back. He's going to do everything he can to assist his team. Radical taking poke, but there's nothing more Dismay can do as all 4 members regroup. 2 that were there can no longer do anything. However, the tier 1 on this left-hand side may end up falling for Alien Nation, so they may be down to 3 tier 2s here in a moment.
Yeah, it does look like they're going to have the tower advantage, unlike last game where there was 2 to do with them early. But hold that thought. This Fire Giant being started, Heimdallr rotating over here before the Rama, so they do have this Hunter damage, and the Fire Giant is falling fast.
Ma is doing everything he can to zone out. It's only going to do so much, but Alien Nation, it doesn't matter. Take the Fire Giant in time, and now the fight breaks out. Magnetic trying to help his team do everything they can against Demise, but Weezer will find 2 dogs surging forward. They're looking for more. Unable to find any targets with any CC, they're going to go ahead and settle for taking down the blue buff and may look to take out this tier 1 and right, but with 2 members deciding to back, it looks like they're going to let Pine and Dragon do it on their own.
I think they may have been worried about that Rama continuing to push for that tier 2 tower and left, but he smartly backs off once he gets the call that Heimdallr returning to base. But what a decisive play by the side of Alien Nation. Weezer Conundrum rotates over. They don't waste any time getting started on that Fire Giant. Giannis not known for his consistent damage, so they absolutely could not have done that without the rotation. And Heim did not hesitate, neither did the rest of his team. They were all on the same page, and Fenrir continuing to do a fantastic job of being that zoning presence, similar to how he did it on the Serket last game. Demise is just, continuing to have the same mindset of let me be a nuisance, let me get involved. You saw, let his 4 teammates take the Fire Giant, jumped out in front. All he did was take cooldowns. And Dismay, similar to how they did in the Gold Fury, wasted cooldowns on this Fenrir as opposed to trying to take down the Fire Giant, trying to potentially steal it away. Not sure they could have regardless, but it remains to be seen how they're going to try and deal with this zoning presence of Fenrir with how these objective fights have gone. It does not look good for their continued success.
Well, Alien Nation have already made us aware by standing around it that Oni Fury may be their next target. They decide to Mize's rotation. They want to go ahead and take away that tier 2 real quick as no one is there to defend. Vibe may be caught out here, though. He's trying to do everything he can to get away, even using the ultimate to try and create some separation, and manages to do so temporarily. But with Ragnarok coming through, he's brought back, and Baratical takes him down. This will leave the Oni Fury wide open for Alien Nation to go ahead and take, and we're gonna have a nice little Oni waves coming through, while Fire Giant is still sitting on them.
So unnecessary for Vibe to give his life right there, especially essentially wasting the River's Rebuke, which is known to be such a good defensive and offensive siege tool, and now they just have no chance of defending either of these tier 2 towers, and I don't want to see them try. I think it'll just be sort of a death sentence for them. So we will see Alien Nation continue to grow their lead, about 3,000, 4,000 gold at this point in the game, especially now that they've picked up these tier 2 towers, looking to pick up a third here in the right lane, and I expect them to push this Phoenix afterwards. They do have that Oni wave coming down in the mid lane. It's being cleared out in the left lane by Cthulhu, but that mid lane wave is going to have to be dealt with. So if they stick around here, they could put some pressure on Dismay.
All tier 2s finally down 21 minutes in, and in come the Oni minion waves in mid. Right lane a little backed up. This left-hand side already dealt with. The 2 lanes to clear out. This Pyromancer going to be the call for Alien Nation. They may end up deciding to back here, spend whatever gold they have come back, get ready for another push. But with time running out on this Fire Giant, the next fight that they're looking for, Frog, they're gonna have to look for them in interesting places.
Yeah, I think their best bet is to fight this Fire Giant. However, they're still a little bit far down, right? 7,000 gold, or maybe closer to 6,000, especially after those tier 2 towers get taken. But no big power spikes from that gold just yet. We get a tier 2 item on both dual laners. We might see this item finished off, this soul gem finished off from Giannis. We get another tier 2 item from Mulan, but it's not like we're getting a Ratatouille jump or a Soul Reaver jump or some big team fight item coming out of either team. So yes, this gold lead is impactful, but it hasn't hit that point where you're not able to fight into this anymore. You still have a lead on your Cthulhu. You still have a close level in that duel lane on that Rama specifically. He's level 19. He's almost full build. He's able to put out this damage if you get him in the right position. So you absolutely have tools to be able to fight into this next Fire Giant defense, but it's coming up soon. From their positioning, it looks like they're not going to be able to fight into it whether they want to or not.
Oh, you say that, but in comes Dismay, start positioning aggressively at that. And they try and take down the Sentry Ward from Alien Nation. Fire Giant finally spawning in, and with this grouping, I was about to say with this grouping, it looks like we could have a delayed start on the fight, but Baratical, it's a little bit aggressive towards Goose. Both members finally splitting up away from each other towards their own teams. But the Sentry Ward of Dismay will be taken down. So we're starting off to our nice little Fire Giant dance while we have a little bit of attempt at clearing waves, but Goose yet again all far up, all alone. The thunder comes out. He uses the ultimate, but it may not be good enough. River's Rebuke coming out, trying to help out the Cthulhu, and all of chaos has broken out. And in the end, though, Baratical claims the first life of this one on Blizzado. Goose trades him right back out. Away goes Minipine through the portal, but Magnetic goes over the wall with his own ultimate. He's trying to find the kill. Aegis is forced. He's still dancing with Tether. Finally gets the kill onto Minipine. Strength of Dragon unable to return the kill as of yet. Other members of Alien Nation branched out towards Fire Giant. So Dragon all alone so far. And it's a 2-for-1. Dismay, as of right now, have taken the aggressive stance and the overall win of this fight.
Yeah, it's exactly what they were looking to do, is play off of their strengths. It looked unintentional, but that doesn't mean it didn't work. Goose putting himself in a position to absorb some critical cooldowns there to start the fight. The River's Rebuke comes out, puts him in a great spot to stop taking some damage. He ends up at very low health, but able to survive that fight ultimately and take down 2 members. Giannis still not spawning as this Fire Giant's being started up, but he does have the space and time to join them if that ends up necessary. But right now it looks like Dragon has pushed too far up, gets the beads burned, slowed out from the Cthulhu, and he is going to fall early on in this fight, and it's going to remain a 5v4. This Fire Giant being looked at again.
Weezer was nearby but didn't want any part of that fight. Demise coming to brought the attention of Goose. Fire Giant already finding itself to half health. In comes Radical as well. It may find an opportunity to do something. Ragnarok's going to be used. Dismay takes down the Fire Giant just in time. But it looks like it may not benefit their entire team. Magnetic falling low. Weezer going to be the one who takes him out. Goose yet again pops the ultimate, trying to do all the damage he can. He's only focusing on one so far. Demise going onto the back line. Two Dog falling low. Finally taken out by Mini Pine, as we've seen a trade out again. Weezer falling the other side, but Demise has found one. Mini Pine finds a double kill, leaving Vibe all alone, the only surviving member after the Fire Giant pull from Dismay, and Alien Nation are looking to find what they can.
For me, I mean, that fight was all about Weezer. We weren't focused on him for quite a while. It looked like Soul was being chased, and Demise did quite a bit, making room in the front line, keeping that Soul locked down. Yamojo was only focused on protecting that Soul for the majority of the fight, especially after that River's Rebuke went up. But Weezer able to take down the first kill of that fight. Magnetic falling early, trying to 1v1 the enemy ADC, and he does not succeed, so already 1 point to him. But then he keeps the two biggest members of the two biggest members of Dismay occupied for long enough that the enemy team in Alien Nation is able to regroup around their teammates around Weezer's death, which those two members are already low, and take him out when they needed to be, right? I mean, Weezer stayed alive for so long against a Cthulhu and the enemy ADC, and as soon as he dies, the rest of his teammates have cleaned up the enemies and they are ready to help with that. So valiant sacrifice from him, able to take the Fire Giant just after they got it, take the Fire Giant right off of Dismay. So it's essentially back to what we see on paper. Big gold lead for Alien Nation. Those items, several of them now coming to fruition. Atalantis Bow for the Heimdallr and Heartseeker for the Mulan, and we do see that Soul Gem and Heartward Amulet finished, as well as a couple other tier 2 items ready to be done on this next back after they secure this Pyromancer. But so far, they're just going to be waiting for yet another objective to spawn. After taking out this Gold Fury, the only thing left on the map are these Phoenixes for the side of Alien Nation.
Oh, we see they're pushing forward already. Mini Pine taking an aggressive portal, finding himself in front of Goose. Just regroups with his team very quickly to make sure he's not caught off guard by any sudden attacks outside from Dismay, but that team already backing up towards their mid. Phoenix not wanting to give up any immediate picks. They know that this would be just a repeat of the end of game number 1 if they allow that to happen. So instead, they're gonna just do their best to clear these waves and keep Alien Nation back without allowing them too much space.
Does look like they are pretty spread on the side of Dismay. Blizzato choosing to be in that dual lane as opposed to the rest of his team grouping up near the mid lane. If they recognize this, Alien Nation could try to engage on a fight. It looks like Hell pushing up for some damage, forcing Goose to back up, but Fenrir blinking in.
Ragnarok's going to be used, but Goose is going to answer with the ultimate of his own. No Sunder being used as of yet from Alien Nation, but members falling low. Magnetic starts it off with a kill onto Weezer, who's still surging forward, trying to find more, but Radical in a bad spot falls to Goose. This leaves it as a 3v5, and Dismay, even though they lost in the Fire Giant fight, they're trying to take what they can now. 3 tier 2 standing. They're going to have to take ones down while they can. Tier 2 in mid's going to be the target. Alien Nation going to regroup under the Phoenix.
They do have this double ADC composition, so they don't need this minion wave to be able to push this Phoenix if they do it properly. Goose engaging, setting up some slows. Fenrir looking for his opportunity to jump in, but they are shredding the Phoenix right now, already down to half health, but Magnetic falling even lower. Fenrir targeting him, Mini Pine able to take him out, and it's Goose stuck in a little bit of a rough spot here. Ragnarok from Fenrir going to pull him back in, or at least force his beads, but he's still maybe taken out as a sacrifice, but it will be a valiant one. They're able to take that Phoenix and gain an advantage in this fight.
Goose and Magnetic down for a minimum of 40 seconds. Alien Nation may be looking to take advantage of this time frame. Looks like they're going to go position over towards the Fire Giant that's going to be spawning here in a couple seconds, and this would be a huge difference maker for how the rest of this game goes. It should be enhanced as well. Coming down, the Alien Nation will find themselves an advantage doing damage to Phoenixes and Titan if they're able to claim this successfully.
Yeah, they are dropping it low. I don't even think anybody from Dismay will be able to get here in time. So as worth it as that Phoenix was at the time, it does feel good to get an objective like that, and it certainly gives you a path to victory if you were to win a big fight at this stage of the game. But the enhanced Fire Giant is just another beast altogether. Giving that one up for free is something that does not go lightly. They are going to have to be almost perfect on these Phoenix defenses of their own if they want to have a chance to come back into this game, but they do have the tools for it, right? Osiris and Cthulhu both fantastic at getting into the backline, and last fight they had some success. Osiris this time, or at least last fight, winning out in that 1v1 versus Weezer Conundrum. If he can make that happen again, it's going to be an almost instant fight win, or at least an advantage towards Alien Nation, as well as Goose getting himself into these backline positions to absorb those cooldowns, giving his team some peel in that Cthulhu ultimate. He's been doing a fantastic job of making the space he wasn't making in the previous game. One thing I will say though, if Alien Nation remain disciplined here, wait for these Oni Fury waves to push down in these multiple lanes, and really try and play this strategic game of pulling the members of Dismay apart as opposed to just taking the 5v5 straight up and rushing this a little bit, I think they will have a better chance.
Well, it's always better to fight 5v3 than 5v5 if you're looking for any kind of advantage. So they may try and do that, or they may just decide to go full send and make it Dismay put their full attention on them while these Oni minions push up. But we already see Demise going in, Ragnarok picking up one member, dragging them as far away as possible. Fine, he's going to use the through space and time as well. Weezer starts off with the kill onto 2Dog. Magnetic answers back with trading him out. Weezer falling down, and under the Phoenix we see Demise. He's going to make sure that falls. Mini Pine takes out one, and Demise will fall in return. 3 for 2, or 2 for 2 so far. The left hand Phoenix falling as well.
I'm glad they got the Phoenix. I think that that is worth it regardless, but it could have been so much better if they had waited for those Oni waves, as I said. I mean, imagine if they just played a little bit more patient, let these Oni waves, especially the one coming in right lane down right now, as opposed to jumping the gun and engaging there. Demise just did not have a solid reason to blink in there and force that engagement to happen. Once again, we see Magnetic making the correct play, taking out Weezer Conundrum, focused on this Heimdallr and consistently in these team fights. That's absolutely the right play, and we saw a good defense happen out of them. In fact, if Fenrir had not had that enhanced Fire Giant on him, I don't think he would have had a chance to finish off that Phoenix, but he still does manage to, so they'll keep that objective. That's the best Phoenix to take, by the way. So they'll have that advantage. They still have 3 members with enhanced Fire Giant as well, so I absolutely expect them to continue pushing with this advantage that they still have before it falls off in the next 70 seconds or so.
Oh, we do see Dismay doing their best to keep pushing minions out, but these left-hand fire minions have gotten a little too close for comfort. They're gonna rotate over, go ahead and start clearing this lane. Alien Nation gonna do their best to clear their camps real quick, try and regroup, push forward where they can. We do see Weezer, he's backing Looks like he will be spending some gold for rejoining his team.
Yeah, it looks like the builds are essentially finished at this point in the game. All upgraded starters from the side of Alien Nation. Same on the side of Dismay. The only unfinished item is this last ring for Soul, or Son of Two Dog, on the Soul. So we're going to wait until he finishes that off. Hopefully he'll be able to do it before the Fire Giant fight. But even if he's not able to, it's still all level 20s, all finished builds. The only advantage Alien Nation are going to have here is these power potions. You see that 3,000 power potion pot on, or power potion on Mighty Pine on the Giannis, waiting to be popped before this fight gets going. So he is going to have a huge burst of power once he pops that. But other than that, this gold is starting to just become a number on the screen. It's really going to be about who's positioned better, who plays these fights better, who has the better macro play, and this certainly doesn't look good getting caught out early. Luckily, he doesn't take too much damage, but they might not have a shot at this regardless if Cthulhu is not able to join them for the fight.
Alien Nation, they have the knowledge now that he's attacking the wave. Goose is not here. If you're going to fight, now is the time. Force Alien Nation back as far as you possibly can, or force them into bad positioning. So far, the Fire Giant just now getting around to coming down. The Goose, he's still staying on this left side. He's not committing to joining his team as of yet. He's going to go for this one final wave. And in the meantime, Enhanced Fire Giant's already under half health. Mize going in, trying to find whoever he can. River's Rebuke goes up. Alien Nation decides to charge ahead. Goose takes the ultimate up. Magnetic finds Piratical. This isn't looking too good for both teams. The trades may start happening as Two Dog finds a kill onto Dragon. Weezer finds Goose. The ADC this time around is able to stay safe. Mighty Pine getting away from Magnetic. Demise finding Two Dog. Blizzato trading him out. And it's a 3-for-2 in favor of Dismay so far, with Goose being late to the fight.
Yeah, I certainly wasn't aware of that teleport. I'm not sure how we missed that relic pickup earlier in the game, but with that upgraded teleport, he was able to join the fight faster than I think Alien Nation were expecting, and they are able to get the fight victory, but it's not as big of a fight victory as I would have liked. Both carries still on the board for Alien Nation. Gonna look to steal this Fire Giant, or at least put a stop to it.
Mighty Pine is here. He does have the ultimate available as well. And we have Weezer on the other end, but he's close to half health, so he's got to be careful. But Dismay, recognizing that they see Pine, decide, we're going to back off this. It's just the two of us. It's not worth dying for right now. With their other two members finally coming up here shortly, as well as Alien Nation, neither team having any kind of real advantage right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And Soul finishing off that last item, finally just continuing to be a battle of the 5v5. Who's going to start the fight better? Who can find a pick? Who can get the poke that they need to? Or who can hit a multi-man ultimate? This Soul ultimate or this through space and time, both of them have the potential to change a fight if they're landing on multiple members and immediately knocking some of those health bars down to manageable levels. This time, those minion waves have been cleared out over and left, no fire waves remaining, and both phoenixes that were previously taken down now standing healthy on the map, at least relatively healthy, but they will be fine. But it's interesting to see Heimdallr over here on the left side of the map instead of potentially helping his team. It's possible he has a crystal in place to join this when he needs to, but it looks like this might bait Dismay into starting a fight.
Goose has gone in. It looks like that's bait. It's been taken. He goes up into the ult, and Magnetic is surging forward, trying to find Mighty Pine, and he does manage to do so. The Giannis taken out of the picture already. Oh, this is different though. We see the full split push coming through. If no one's able to back, Weezer will be able to end this game, and instead Magnetic will be the one to back in time. Enhanced Fire Giant being started up by Dismay. Alien Nation members are getting over there as fast as they can. Goose doing everything he can to zone them out. The Fire Giant getting under quarter health. Demise, he goes in, he's trying to find any can, but Dismay still secures the Fire Giant. Demise takes out Blizzato. Piratical gets Two Dog, and Goose all alone trying to dash away towards safety. He finds Demise. going to be forced out, but it's not looking like it's going to be good enough. And in the end, Strength of Dragon will take down Goose 3-4-1 across the board. And with Magnetic and Vibe, the only two standing, Alien Nation are looking to end.
They have 40 seconds before any of those members spawn, so it's going to be a guaranteed 4v2 for at least that long. They're going to push down this middle Phoenix. They don't have the enhanced Fire Giant, so they're not going to be able to shred this as fast. Hold that thought, they shred it way faster than I think we were expecting. And Fenrir with the Ragnarok taking out Vibe early. Weezer Conundrum securing that kill. Dismay securing the final kill on Magnetic Excalibur, and they're going to secure the kill on the Titan as well. It's great to get the enhanced Fire Giant Vengeance, but it's not worth too much if you don't use it to win the game.
Alienation, Dismay had a much better hard-fought battle this time around, going 40 long minutes into this one, but in the end, Alienation proved victorious, taking a clean 2-0 overall against Dismay, finding themselves in a much better spot in the league early on.
Yeah, and it was a good, well-fought game from both teams. I'm much happier with the showing of Dismay in this game, too, as opposed to their lack of, I think, presence in Game 1. And really impressed with Goose's specifically adaptations moving from Game 2, or Game 1 to Game 2. I think he was much more of a force to be reckoned with, in fact, taking top damage on his team to show that he was a force to be reckoned with. And I think that there definitely is promise coming from Dismay as we move through the rest of the season. Remember, this is only week 1, folks. This is where you learn who's good, who's not so good, and how you're going to beat all of the other teams, right? So everybody's going to be watching matches this week, trying to learn as much as they possibly can. And I think Dismay's ability just to adapt from one game, the more information in the game, I expect them to see them move towards the top of the league as they're able to adapt further into these teams. That being said, Alien Nation putting on an impressive show. I am excited to see more out of Weezer Conundrum specifically. He carried almost in game number 1. And don't get me wrong, his teammates all played their part, so carried isn't particularly the right word, but when your name keeps showing up in the kill feed, it's hard not to have a focus on you. So he looked great on the Rama. He looked solid on the Heimdallr. He continued to put his team in a good position, and everybody else playing their part. Baratical, I love him on these funky warrior jungles, as well as Demise just continuing to make space, making himself a nuisance for the enemy team. Everybody is performing to their specified role on the side of Alien Nation, and I look forward to seeing both of these teams throughout the rest of the season.
Well, to break down game number 2 in the set as a whole, we do have the deaths to go ahead and throw it back to. So, guys, go ahead and talk about what you liked, what you didn't like, but overall, how Alien Nation managed to take this 2-0.
All right, Snake, that was such a much better game. So much side to side, so much more of a competitive game, that game. I think at the end of the day, it really just came down to the damage output numbers between this Rama and this Heimdallr. Weezer Conundrum more than doubled Blizzato's damage. More than doubled.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I think that, you know, Frog said it really well. Like, the adaptation from the team from one game to another was really a key factor that why this game lasted like 41 minutes. But of course, there's still, you know, some flaws that they need to work in. Especially, I didn't really like the fights around the Fire Giant, because at the end they risk it all, but they had like no reward. In the last fight, they took the Fire Giant, but they end up losing the game. So I guess they need to, you know, work more around those fights, because they were really not on point on that.
Yeah, I do think they were a lot better in the PvP fights that they decided to take, that they decided to commit to. I think there's a lot, but I think the Goose and Magnetic did a phenomenal job on these two dive characters. I just think the biggest thing for me is as they progress throughout the season, watching their objective macro shot calling improve is going to be absolutely massive for this team. Because that is legitimately the one thing that's holding this team back in this set is just that total across the board macro shot call. So once they've got that down, I cannot wait to see this team again later in the season. Honestly, I was just super happy to see that they came out of game one where they kind of got slapped around a little bit after starting so strong, because that can be absolutely devastating. And they just came back and owned it and came back right into this game and fought evenly the whole game. I was very happy to see that.
They sure are a team that, of course they need to improve, but they have their weapons. And I think, more practice, more screaming, that will get them to the top, because it's been only a few times that I've been seeing this kind of adaptation between one game and the other. Like, most of the time I've seen just sweeps really easy, but this time it was a really entertaining match, and I really hope to see more of this along the season.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. We will be back again with more casts as the weeks go on, and we are looking forward to bringing you more AGL action as we get into the second week of Season 6, finishing out first season. Thanks, everyone, for being here. My name is Glacier again. We had Frog, Vengeance on the cast, Snake joining on the desk, and then give a hand to Illicit for running production as well. It's been a great night. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.